Recently, I've seen a lot of conservative personalities warning that Donald Trump may in fact lose. I've also talked to some personalities that I know who supported Trump in 2016 saying they may not actually support him this time. And I've been fairly bullish on a Trump landslide victory, but you know what? I could be completely wrong about this. I gotta admit, I just don't know what's gonna happen. Last night, Donald Trump held a rally. They had bragged that nearly 1 million tickets had been RSVP'd, but then only 6,200 people showed up. They had this big outdoor viewing area that had to be broken down, and now the left is mocking them. But you know what? Here we go again. The left may be falling into a false sense of security. This might be a trap. Now, there's a lot going on. One big story is that Tik Tok teens scammed the Donald Trump campaign. They pranked him by signing up for tickets they never wanted to use, thus causing Trump to expect a massive turnout, and no one really wanted to be there. Now, this story seemingly makes very little sense. Tickets are RSVPs. I mean, there's infinite tickets. Anybody can show up if they want to. The reality is people just didn't want to show up. So all you really get in the end is the Trump campaign disputing the TikTok story, resting on a press release of 1 million RSVPs, and then just creating an excuse as to why people didn't show up. Now, we don't know why people didn't show up, but online the numbers were absolutely massive. They're now reporting, I believe, 5.3, maybe even 8 million online viewers. Never mind that, there were also television viewers, so it could have been way, way more. Perhaps the campaign is correct. People were scared of the coronavirus, and they were scared of a potential for violence. The Trump campaign said that some of the protesters blocked one of the entrances, and people couldn't get in. That's partially true, but they did also open it up shortly after, according to a journalist who was on the ground. So who knows for sure? What I can say is that right now Trump supporters are concerned they could lose. And they are warning all of the Trump supporters, you better be prepared to fight for this because they're going to they're going to use every dirty trick. At the same time, what am I seeing from the left? Mockery, hubris. They're convinced they're going to win. In fact, I tried responding to Kyle Kulinski, a progressive personality, and I just got smacked down by all of these progressives so sure of themselves that Biden absolutely could not lose. And think about that attitude and think about where we were in 2016. I've said it over and over again. Hubris will be your downfall. Now, I've been bullish on Trump landsliding, of just him sweeping through. But with this low turnout, I just don't know anymore. And I think it would be stupid to make a prediction, especially when I was wrong about 2016 and I was wrong about 2018. So whatever it is, you know what? I just don't know. I'm going to back out of making the prediction game here and just say Trump supporters are trying to ensure people show up. They didn't show up for this rally. Now they're getting more fired up and worried they could actually lose this. At the same time, we are seeing the same mistakes of 2016 from the Democrats, just laughing all the way to the bank. Joe Biden's lead is too big. It's too big. It's so much bigger than Hillary Clinton's. And maybe that's true, but you should absolutely not be telling everyone you got it in the bag. Michael Moore right now is warning them, saying, no, the enthusiasm gap is huge. Stop mocking this rally because these people live for Trump. And how many people are scared to show up because of cancel culture? There are a lot of reasons people may not have come to physically attend this rally. One progressive made a very, very great point, a high-profile progressive. I'm not going to say who this is, but they said, listen, Trump was telling his supporters signing up for this campaign was a show of support. How many people just signed up to attend that didn't actually plan on attending the event? They said they'd come, but they never really wanted to. Trump just wanted that press release, 1 million people, and they got it. And now they can blame Black Lives Matter and the far left as to why people didn't come. They can use that to their advantage. Now, let's be real. It may just be that Trump's enthusiasm isn't there. It's all in the polls. It's all fake. I got to say, personally, I don't believe that, especially with all of the statues being torn down and the anecdotal evidence I've heard. Now, anecdotal evidence isn't data, but to these progressives who think they've won this, you might be in for a rude awakening if that's the attitude you maintain, just like you did in 2016. So let's get started on the story. I want to show you a direct conversation I had with progressive Kyle Kulinski and how he responded to me. And I think, man, these people are overconfident. I'll tell you this. They are laughing at me. They are mocking me, saying, you're so dumb. You're an embarrassment. We're going to win. The polls are on our side. Okay. You can have it. I'm not going to make that prediction. I'm just trying to tell you, those of you who are progressives, you may be falling into a trap here. But if you do, so be it. You get what you deserve on this one. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's several different ways you can give. There's a P.O. box, but the best thing you can do is actually share this video. I'm competing with a bunch of mainstream media organizations, and, well, they get propped up by YouTube. Plus, they've got massive marketing budgets. I don't have that. I just have you guys. But if you just want to watch, then share the video, hit the like button, then hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, notification bell, and let's read the news. Just very briefly, I want to show you this from CNBC. Trump stokes culture wars, but low turnout mars Tulsa campaign rally. President Donald Trump's first campaign rally in 3 months drew far fewer attendees than had been anticipated. An embarrassing blunder for a candidate who places an unusually high value on crowd sizes. Speaking for almost 2 hours, Trump fanned the flames of culture war issues currently roiling the nation, including racial justice and law enforcement. Trump deployed several new attack lines against Joe Biden, but none of them seemed to animate his supporters like his attacks on Hillary Clinton did in 2016. And that may be it. Some people have brought up that Joe Biden is a dotard. He's just a bumbling old man who can't talk straight. He's not very threatening. He's just sleepy, creepy Joe. Hillary Clinton a lot of people mocked her specifically as a cackling fiend. I'm not making this up or trying to directly insult either of these people. This is how people view them. Hillary Clinton was an evil villain, and people despised her, and they rose up to the challenge to defeat her. Joe Biden, fumbling, bumbling Joe. He is not threatening to anybody, and he's very, very hard to actually go after. They're betting on this. They're hiding Joe Biden. But let me jump over to one of these tweets here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in all her hubris, says to Brad Parscale. Now, Brad was saying that radical protesters fueled by a week of apocalyptic media coverage interfere with Trump supporters at the rally. They even blocked access to metal detectors, preventing people from entering. And this is what AOC had to say. Actually, you just got rocked by teens on TikTok who flooded the Trump campaign with fake ticket reservations and tricked you into believing 1 million people wanted your white supremacist open mic enough to pack an arena during COVID. Shout out to Zoomers. Y'all make me proud. She then said, K-pop allies, we see and appreciate your contributions in the fight for justice too. 113,000 retweets. And here's what we see. J. Smith Cameron tweets, I don't know who this person is, HBO writer or something. Okay, you beautiful TikTok teens, see you in November. Really? Is that what you think is going to happen? That a lot of these kids who aren't even old enough to vote, who engaged in an online meme prank, you think they're actually going to turn out to vote? Even the ones who are older 18, and most of them we're talking about Zoomers, right? So most of them maybe are probably under 18. A large portion maybe under 24. How many of these people are actually going to vote? They never do. But maybe, look, I'm going to get out of the prediction game. I'll tell you this. Maybe this is the one. Now, if they do mail-in voting, perhaps, because now it's a meme, right? They're all going to be like, ooh, I'm going to vote. It'll be so funny when Trump loses. Maybe they learned how to engage in the culture wars and actually rile people up to play the game. I'm not confident. I'm really not. But let's jump forward to the hubris. Trump is pressing culture war issues. He's talking about the protests, the riots, and things like this. I think these matter. Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk, I believe his show is, tweeted, Trump's rally made clear that his strategy now for 2020 is lean into culture war and try to tie Joe Biden to the far left. This is the worst strategy possible for him. It won't work. I humbly disagreed. But let's read a little bit more of what he says. When you still have a pandemic, 20% real unemployment, and tumultuous uprisings, you're complaining about statues and the fake news media being mean to you rings hollow. It's also obviously untrue that Biden is like pro-Antifa or some S. Embarrassing strategy. Trump hammered Hillary on corruption, NAFTA, the Iraq War, and he postured as being anti-establishment. That was so much more potent than leaning into culture war symbolism and pretending Biden is Antifa. The right-wing bubble has dulled his instincts. These are good points. These are very, very good points. I humbly disagree. It may be true, and my disagreement is only slightly, I only slightly disagree. The reason is the culture war issues have to do with our founding fathers being torn down, and the real fear people start to feel when they see Thomas Jefferson ripped from a statue base, or the fear they feel when their buildings are being lit up and destroyed. Scientific analysis shows us when riots happen and it's in the news, people vote law and order. Even with unemployment, even with COVID, people want law and order. So yes, they may not have shown up to Trump's rally because they're scared of the mass riots. Not only that, everyone is getting canceled. Our movies are being movies are being banned, books are being banned, art is being banned. And how many of these people are scared that if they show up to this rally, someone will see their face and they will get fired? It was recently announced that an artist for the card game, a fantasy card game called Magic the Gathering, would no longer produce art because she simply followed some of these people on social media. If you are not paying attention to how this impacts people, then hubris will get the best of you. I absolutely recognize Trump on NAFTA and the Iraq War and all of these issues. And maybe Trump isn't focused enough on them. That's absolutely fair. And guess what? I see Trump supporters warning about this. But what do you think happened when I brought up the riots and a personal anecdote? Did they respond to me? That's a good point. We'll consider it. But here's why we think Trump will lose. No, they moved the goalposts because they are adamant they will win by any means. Trump is always doing the worst things. No matter what, Trump is always wrong. Trump is always wrong. Here's the response I got. In a tweet, I said, responding to that other tweet, based on the riots and some anecdotal encounters with friends from Chicago, I disagree. 4 months ago, a friend of mine was die-hard anti-Trump. Then the Black Lives Matter protests happened, and Dems supported it while demanding lockdowns. The same person now says Trump and Republicans must win. This is a true story. I have more than one friend who said, what is even going on anymore? I had conversations 4 months ago where I had friends from Chicago arguing with me that I was too biased, that I was constantly coming down on Democrats, and I needed to start coming down on Republicans. And I explained Republicans don't do anything. They really don't. Obstruct, I guess. And the Democrats are obsessed with Trump. Now, where are we? Riots swept the country. And now what am I hearing? The same person saying, like, this is insane. What's happening? People are buying guns like crazy, dude. Kyle, listen to me. I know you may be right. I'm just saying I disagree. I'm not saying Trump is going to win. In fact, I'm not sure. The response I got was staggering, to say the least. The hubris from the progressive left and from the Democrats is shocking. I got to say it is. After everything that's happened in this country, with all the polls being wrong, you are still convinced that when the polls come out, you're guaranteed to win? I turn to these Trump supporters who are saying he might not. And I'm like, there we go again. The fear from the Trump supporters who feel that this is the death of democracy. Were you watching the comments on his live stream? How many millions of viewers did they get? I saw at least 1 million live concurrent viewers, or around that number, maybe just shy of, saying this is the fight for democracy and the fight for freedom. They're taking this very seriously and they're scared they're going to lose. They're going to come out in massive numbers. Maybe they don't. They didn't show up to your rally. Maybe they don't show up to polling places because they're scared. Now take into consideration mail-in voting. How many young people who were willing to engage in this manipulation will actually mail their vote in? I don't believe they will. We saw it in CA 25. In California, at their special election, the young people did not vote in larger numbers than the older generation, even though there's more young people that pretend that the hard number was down and the percentage was down. Young people don't vote. Maybe it will change this time, okay? But looking at past data, I don't know. Now think about all of the people who watched online but did not attend, the millions, and extrapolate that, make some assumptions that could be wrong. But when it comes to mail-in voting, I'd be willing to bet people will be scared to show up in person, and mail-in voting may greatly benefit Donald Trump because now older people who are scared of COVID can vote. When I pointed out the culture war may be a good strategy for Trump, I disagree. I didn't say it was the best strategy. I simply said I disagree that it was the worst strategy. Here's what Kyle said to me. With all due respect, your anecdote means dick. The polls are stunningly pro-Biden, way more than they were pro-Hillary. It can change, but as of right now, Biden's giant lead is undeniable. We can objectively analyze why that is or pretend it's fake news. The latter is embarrassing. Now, I'm shocked at the hostility from Kyle on this one. But I didn't say anything about polls or Trump winning, simply that Trump has embraced the culture war for a reason. In case you haven't been paying attention, in the month of May, a record number of guns were sold. For those of you that follow my content, you will know that I recently just said straight up, I'm going 2A, baby. I'm going to get some guns. And guess what? I did. I went and got my fingerprints done. I got my ID. And that's something I never thought I would do. It was only 4 months ago. I kid you not. I was adamantly saying there will not be a gun in my home. I am not kidding. I am serious about that. And then things changed. The coronavirus happened. Food was being pulled off the shelves. And then we saw nationwide riots. And I said, okay, it's better. You have to do something. You have to do something. And I said, I gotta go out and I gotta take care of this. And you know what? I did. I absolutely did. And my story is true. Friends of mine are freaking out and they're buying weapons in massive numbers. I am not saying Trump will win because of this. I am saying something is happening. It's freaking people out. And Trump, this is not the worst strategy to highlight the chaos and the statues being torn down. This is what I said in a previous video, that there are people in this country who remember waking up in the suburbs to a nice bowl of cereal, some hot pancakes. Mom was putting butter on that French toast or whatever. Dad was sipping his coffee and reading the paper. That was them growing up. And what do they see today? Everything is different. So Trump comes out and says, make America great again. And yeah, maybe he's pandering to an overwhelmingly white majority because the country is. Criticize it all you want. But these people now miss the days of warm apple pie and a scoop of ice cream. That's what they remember. They remember waking up on Christmas morning. Now everything's changing. Words are changing. Meaning is changing. And then they see massive protests go out, destroying everything. And these people get scared. You have to recognize there are hard bases in this country of Democrats and Republicans. Depending on which data you use, they could be fairly even. It's the people in the middle you're trying to convince. Progressives responding to me when I talk about the riots and the culture war with poll numbers. Amazing. Have the poll numbers started to take into consideration the violence sweeping this nation? Not necessarily. Many of them have. I agree. It's a really good point. Trump's turnout was very, very low. It's bad news for him. I agree. The polls are very much so favoring Joe Biden. But that doesn't mean Trump's strategy is off. It doesn't mean he's going to win. Here was my response. Polls have nothing to do with whether culture war is a good strategy. You misunderstand my point. Trump may still lose, but this may be his only conceivable strategy. You said it was the worst. It may in fact be the best, and he still may in fact lose. The main reason I'm showing you this with Kyle is to bring up the hubris, the assuredness, the we know. I bring you now to the story of Tik Tok like AOC mentioned. Here's the story from the New York Times. They just know everything, don't they? TikTok teens and K-pop stans say they sank Trump's rally. Did a successful prank inflate attendance expectations for President Trump's rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma? ? This is called Betteridge's Law of Headlines. They say, Betteridge's Law of Headlines is an adage that states any headline that ends in a question mark can be answered by the word no. Did they sink Trump's rally? No. We don't know why. But it may be that you are so insanely wrong about what's going on. I go back to that anecdote, the story about my buying of guns. I want to stress this point to all of you. 2 years ago, look at my Timcast news channel. I argued in favor of reasonable gun controls. I supported Andrew Yang in these past few years because he was moderate on gun control. And I'm off that train now. I went to the gun store and I bought what I could buy. That was a dramatic change for me very, very quickly. These riots mean something. They showed up to a conservative journalist's house with guns and fireworks, firing at her house, screaming and banging on her windows. Did you hear about that one? These things matter to people. This is the culture war. Now, here's where your hubris may be getting the best of you. Trump's campaign rally, sabotaged by TikTok. Could it be that the fears of the racial violence and the protesters who are showing up, and they were warned by the Tulsa mayor, a civil emergency was declared over a fear of violence. And now you have all these people who RSVP'd sitting there watching cities get ransacked. They turn on Fox News every night. And what do they see? Burning buildings, men with guns, Chaz. A shooting just happened in Chaz. A shooting happened in Atlanta. You think these people are going to be like, everything's great, while they go out and buy more guns than they've ever bought? This could be my confirmation bias, and I will recognize that 100%. I don't know what will happen. But you sit back laughing about Donald Trump's attendance. You sit back laughing about Joe Biden's polling numbers, and there are explanations for these. You don't know. But you know what? You'll reap what you have sown. When you sit there all day laughing about how you won, about how you got owned by the Tik Tok teens, haha, Donald Trump, about how Trump got owned. And the reality is, maybe 1 million people did want to show up to Trump's rally. And maybe many of them, being older voters, were scared. Because you know there's videos from 2015 of elderly people being knocked to the ground and their hats are set on fire. I witnessed this personally. So here's what I see. I see in 2016 the polls were wrong. I see now Trump signs, or I'm told by my friends in my neighborhood, which is overwhelmingly blue in the Philadelphia area, Trump signs in people's lawns. I went to get my ID for gun purchasing, and I went to a gun store. And you know what they told me? We've been swamped. I am in a very, very heavy blue area. You can't ignore the signs around you. Now, I understand the anecdotes I have. Feel free to dismiss them, Kyle, or anybody else. But I'm telling you what I'm seeing, and it doesn't mesh with what we're seeing in the news. Michael Moore is warning you. Biden does not have this enthusiasm, but fear drives voters too. There's some very important and powerful points made by conservatives warning that Trump will lose. And I factor these things in, and I wonder if the left is just so obsessed with themselves and thinking how great they are. If they're so obsessed with the orange man bad narrative, they don't try to actually assess what's happening. Let's break it down. Is Donald Trump's support down? Yes. Is it worse than it's ever been? No. In the aggregate, Donald Trump is actually not doing that bad relative to the rest of his presidency. He's slightly down from where he was when he first got elected. Now, COVID may have played a role in this. It absolutely may have. Will people blame Trump for the fact that Democratic governors shut down their businesses? Maybe. One of the better points I've heard from some conservatives is that people vote for change. That's it. If things are really bad around election time, they'll just say, let's try something else. That's it. They'll forget the 3 years of prosperity Trump brought them. And that's a fair point. It could be that people didn't show up to Trump's rally because they don't want to. But what the Trump campaign responded with, they responded with, we know what fake signups look like. So I give you this, the statement from the Trump rally on the TikTok things. They say leftists and online trolls are doing a victory lap, thinking they somehow impacted rally attendance. Don't know what they're talking about, or how our rallies work. Reporters who wrote gleefully about TikTok and K-pop fans without contacting the campaign for comment behaved unprofessionally and were willing dupes to the charade. Registering for a rally means you've RSVP'd with a cell phone number, and we constantly weed out bogus numbers, as we did with tens of thousands at the Tulsa rally, in calculating our possible attendee pool. These phony ticket requests never factor into our thinking. What makes this lame attempt at hacking our events even more foolish is the fact that every rally is general admission. Entry is on a first-come, first-served basis, and prior registration is not required. The fact is that a week's worth of the fake news media warning people away from the rally because of COVID and protesters, coupled with recent images of American cities on fire, had a real impact on people bringing their families and children to the rally. MSNBC was among the outlets reporting that protesters even blocked entrances to the rally at times. For the media to now celebrate the fear that they helped create is disgusting, but typical. And it makes us wonder why we bother credentialing media for events when they don't do their full jobs as professionals. Brad Parscale. There's a really good point here, and I'm sorry, man. I'll tell you my personal opinion and my bias. I think they are correct for the most part. For the most part. TikTok would have no impact. How many of these people really engaged in this, and did it matter? I don't think so. Trump supporters RSVP'd, and this is, again, according to a progressive pundit. They were told that signing up for this event was a sign of your support, and then they got to announce 1 million people RSVP'd. Now they get to announce that people are really scared and don't want to show up. I think the data point that Kyle and others are ignoring is 100% gun sales. 40%, according to the Washington Free Beacon, I believe it was the Free Beacon, are first-time buyers. I'm one of them. I supported Andrew Yang. I was very, I'm like, Yang's the guy, man. He's the moderate guy. He's charismatic. He's not too far left on a lot of issues. I'm pretty much off the Yang gang train, mostly because he's out, and he's done some things I'm not super happy with. But I'm nowhere near that position anymore about reasonable gun controls. Just absolutely not. I went through the process of trying to buy weapons, and it changed my view. How many of these people who normally didn't think they needed a gun and went out and bought them are now not going to vote for gun control? Do you think they're going to vote for gun control? With Beto O'Rourke saying, yes, we're coming for your guns, working with Biden? I don't know, man. But that's at least what I see. Now, I understand Kyle Kulinski sees something different, and maybe he's right. That's the big difference between the two of us. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I simply offer you a counterpoint. I think it may work well. This may be going in Trump's direction. I think low turnout may absolutely have been caused by the massive, the violence and COVID. How many of these people went and bought guns? You think the people who are scared of the rioters are going to go enter the fray where they're told a civil emergency has been declared because of the violence? They're going to be like, no dice. I'm not doing it. These are not young, aggressive, far leftists. These are middle-aged and older folks who want to go and wave their little American flags. Now, they'll buy weapons for protection, but how many of them are going to show up to confront the far left? So bring on the mail-in voting, man. I think it's going to help out a lot of these older people. And let me tell you something. In the face of massive rioting throughout the country, our statues being torn down, Ulysses S. Grant, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, my friends are telling me stories about their liberal buddies going out and buying guns, freaked out once they see the riots. In the face of all of this, Trump was still able to get 6,200 people inside that building. Joe Biden can't get in the dozens. Now, here's their bet. Hide Joe Biden, a neutral candidate who is dopey and non-threatening. It sounds like it might work. Trump can't really go after him in the same way. Now, he can go after the corruption. He can. And maybe Trump leaning into culture war issues is a bad idea simply because corruption hasn't worked last time. But as we've seen from the data, okay, this is after MLK's assassination, there were riots. And there was a researcher actually got fired, supposedly for showing off the data from the scientists who made it. A scientist got fired, apparently, for tweeting this out, saying, peaceful protests generate positive coverage. Violent riots generate negative coverage. Violent riots result in a 2-point swing for Republicans. Peaceful protests, a 2-point swing for Democrats. Based on that, and based on the polls being wrong, I think the Democrats are insane to have this much hubris. And I know Kyle's not really a Democrat, he's a progressive, but man, the message you should be putting out right now is we don't know. This could be bad news for Biden, it could be bad news for Trump, we just don't know. I'll wrap it up with this. Low turnout is meaningless. 100% meaningless. The left is dancing around laughing about Tik Tok and about how nobody wants to come see Trump. And they have no idea why this is happening. They really don't. I can point to the millions of people who watched online and say they don't want to come outside, but I really just don't know. Maybe people don't like Trump anymore. His approval rating's gone down. His support supposedly down. Maybe those polls are wrong. With so many people losing their jobs simply for following other people, and it's happened for years, I have to imagine a lot of people refuse to say they would vote for Trump. 100%. But the gun sales don't lie. The sentiment of the average person right now is on full display. Fear and panic in the air. So we will see. And you know what, man? To all of those who think Trump's going to win and they know it, I will laugh when he loses. And to all of those who would mock me simply because I said pay attention to the riots, I will laugh extra hard when Biden loses, but I just don't know. And neither do you. So I'll say it one more time for those in the back. Hubris will guarantee your defeat. What else can I say? We're going to be tracking this. We're less than 5 months out now. I think people will be surprised either way. Some people will claim they weren't surprised, but I'll tell you what, I'll be surprised by either side winning at this point. And the best thing you can do is cautious optimism for whether your side is going to win. But the only person I've seen on the left issue this warning is Michael Moore. How absolutely insane. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m., youtube.com/TimCastNews, and I will see you then.